Hey, it's Corey Wilkins from Ears Only Audio. Thank you so much for tuning in again today. I really do appreciate it. If you like what you see and hear, please do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button and share this video with a friend. So I'm going handheld today. Got my iPhone rocking this video. So quality isn't quite the same as it normally would be. But I want to talk about the longest going debate in audio. It's been going since the 90s. Digital versus analog. I think there might be a couple videos about this up on YouTube. But most of these videos seem to be done in an either or. I prefer analog because that's how we did it in the 1960s, and that's when Sgt. Pepper was recorded. Or, I prefer digital because the recall and the flexibility and the editing and the blah, 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 blah. Okay. This isn't quite that kind of video. The video I want to do today is how can you get the best out of both worlds. Now, most people will tell you that the actual experience of mixing, especially people who have done both, will tell you that the actual physical experience of mixing is superior when you're mixing mostly in the analog domain. If you're on a console or something like that, you're actually being active. So there's like sort of what I like to think of as active mixing versus passive mixing. Clicking and pointing is a lot more passive than grabbing a handful of faders and pushing them up. Or pulling them down, for that matter. But you do really run into trouble with recall and things like that in the analog domain. So what I like to do is have everything completely digital inside the box for a variety of reasons. I never leave Pro Tools, but I want a very analog feel to my workflow. I want to feel like I'm working on a big analog console. So how do I do that? Well, the first thing is kind of the centerpiece of my studio right here. This is a Tascam DM3200. It is my interface for Pro Tools. All my audio goes in and out of here. This is where my converters are, all that stuff. Now you can actually mix on this console. So you can break it out of Pro Tools and mix on the console and then send it back into Pro Tools. Or you can choose to control your DAW with Huey on the control layer, which is precisely what I'm doing here. So I never actually go outside of Pro Tools to do my volumes and pans. And it gives me that feel. All my volume automation, fader rides, pan automation, stuff like that, is all done by hand with me grabbing faders, grabbing knobs, turning them until I get the sound in the balance that I want to get. So it's a much more active process than fiddling around with my keyboard. And then as far as my sort of initial EQ and compression goes, where a analog engineer would have his or her sort of channel strip on their console, I am fortunate enough to be using the Softube Console 1, and this emulates an SSL 4000E series channel strip. I've got filters, I've got gate, I've got EQ, I've got compression, I can drive it a bit, get some harmonic saturation, and I do it all here. And I don't have to listen to voiceover telling me, 329 hertz, 334 hertz, 342 hertz. Like, I turn the knob until I find the area that sounds like crap, and then I turn the other knob that makes it turn down. Which is a much better experience. It makes your mixes more musical, but at the same time, I still have all the accessibility of being in the box. If I want to, I can go back and check my work. If I'm like, oh man, I'm kind of getting lost here. Something's weird with this EQ, or man, is that compressing just a little bit too much? I'm not sure. I can go back and I can look. I can have, or listen in my case. I can have my gain reduction meter, check it out for me and see how much gain reduction I'm achieving with my compressor. I can go back and look at the EQ and say, wow, did I really mean to cut out, 8 dB of 400? I mean, I know I needed to cut 400, but 8 dB, really? Maybe I went a little bit far. So I can double check my work by having it still be in the box, but I have the experience of I can just import a project into Pro Tools, maybe a mix that I got off the internet, that one of y'all sent me. Never heard the song before. Put all my faders at Unity, make sure it's gain staged, hit play, and start mixing without allowing the technology to get in my way. I don't want to have to listen to feedback from VoiceOver any more than I absolutely have to. And as a matter of fact, let's have a look at my whole setup here, just so you can see the perspective. Right in front of where I sit, console 1, Tascam, monitors, stuff like that. Way over here, out of the way, where it's kind of a pain in the ass to get to it, my keyboard. Because I don't like to sit there. If I wanted to type on a keyboard, I'd go back to medical transcription like I did in my early 20s. All right? I don't want to type on a keyboard. I want to do this stuff. I want to make that happen. It is a lot easier to really drive a mix in the analog domain, but analog is very expensive. You're looking at dropping thousands and thousands of dollars on a console, or hundreds of thousands of dollars on an amazing console, and thousands of dollars on outboard gear and all this stuff. And I don't have that kind of money. I'm sorry, hate to break it to you. It's just not in the cards for me right now. So I get to sort of have this analog feeling control while I'm staying inside the digital domain and don't have to have all of this extremely expensive gear. And it really just works perfectly for me. I have the recall of digital. I have the accessibility of digital, meaning not being able to see. I'm not at any disadvantage mixing inside of Pro Tools. I don't have to just guess. I can go back and listen to, VoiceOver give me feedback when I want to, but I like having the option to do it without constantly having to listen to VoiceOver give me feedback. I don't always want feedback of exactly what frequency I'm cutting and by how much. I want to make that decision based on the sounds that I hear, rather than making that decision based on, wow, maybe it's starting to sound good. I mean, I'm cutting like 5 dB and that's kind of a lot. Maybe it's who cares how many dB I'm cutting, right? When I'm doing it on here and I don't have VoiceOver talking to me and I'm just, grabbing this knob on the low mid and I'm turning it to the left, I don't care if I'm cutting it 2 dB or if I'm cutting it 8 dB. I'm cutting it to the point where it sounds cool. So I have absolutely the best of both worlds, where I have that sort of intuitive and active control over all the best parts of the digital realm. So, maybe my setup isn't for everybody, but it works great for me, and I just wanted to share that with you because maybe it would work great for you as well. Maybe you're perfectly happy pointing and clicking with your mouse or taking care of all your plugin parameters on your keyboard. I wasn't, and I needed to find a way around it. I wanted my mixing to be more active, more involved, more hands-on, and I was fortunate enough to be able to find and obtain the tools that would allow me to do that. And I just wanted to share with you guys how that works for me and why I do it that way. So my experience is very similar to someone who was mixing on an analog console 35 years ago, as far as I have to be turning knobs and moving faders. But I have all of the advantages of digital. I never have to keep a recall sheet, which is amazing. That's something I definitely would not look forward to. So that's how I do it. I'm running a fairly sizable control surface here, running a pretty good desk. Got my channel strip going on. I mean, this thing right here, God's gift to mixing. I'll tell you what.
I'm not even being paid by Softtube to say that. Although, hey guys, if you want to,
That'd be totally cool. I would accept it. But no, it's just a phenomenal product and does exactly what it's marketed to do. And it delivers. So you don't have to choose one or the other. You don't have to, if you like the analog feel, you don't have to go out and spend, you know, scores of thousands of dollars to make that happen. You can stay digital, you can stay in the box, and have a very analog based workflow, which to me is the best of everything. I'm Corey Wilkins for Ears Only Audio, and I will see you next time.